Welcome to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast, your guide to future tech trends and innovation in a language you understand. Now, over to your host, Neil Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. It's that time of year again where people are beginning to gaze into their crystal balls and predict what tech trends are going to dominate the next 12 months and select their tech heroes or tech villains of 2018. And this got me thinking, I'm curious, you are all listening all over the world in every continent, and I'm curious on your thoughts on this one. So, as you're a pretty smart bunch with discerning tastes, I've got to say, feel free to email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com, or tweet me at Neil C. Hughes, and let me know your predictions for 2019 and your tech heroes or tech villains of 2018. But today's guest is Arthur Lazinski, and he has a background in enterprise software, specifically with SAP, where he was part of a fantastic team. But he went on to channel his passion for complex business processes and technology to co-found Oomnitza. Now, Oomnitza offers an IT asset management platform designed to provide organisations with a comprehensive solution to track and manage their assets. And I'm aware that asset management is not a sexy subject for many people listening, which is one of the reasons that Oomnitza exists and is used by many, many big-name brands and high-tech companies in multiple countries. I love what the guys are doing here and bringing asset management into the 21st century and into a world where businesses of all sizes are midway through the digital transformation of everything. But hey, no spoilers from me. It's time for me to say buckle up and hold on tight as I beam your ears all the way to San Francisco so we can speak with Arthur Lazinski from Oomnitza to learn more about his tech startup story and how he's helping transform the consumerization of IT. So, a massive warm welcome to the show, Arthur. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Absolutely. First of all, thank you so much for having me, Neil. Super excited. I was just telling you earlier, I'm a huge fan of what you're doing. Love that you're putting things in layman terms, and I think the benefit is really there for people to hear what's on the cutting edge. So thank you so much for hosting me. A little bit about me. I'm one of the three founders and the CEO of Oomnitza Inc., and what we are is a SaaS company that sells tools to the enterprise. Companies use our software to manage the things that make their business run.
Fantastic. And a huge thank you for the kind words there. I'm glad you got the kind of key message that I was going to send out there, because I think all too often business leaders in particular will be bombarded with words such as blockchain, IoT, machine learning, AI. But unless they hear it in a language that they understand and the benefits that it offers them as a business, it's just buzzwords, isn't it?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And I even find myself a lot of times going, well, what does that acronym mean?
Yeah.
You know, those three letters, what do they stand for?
Now, back to you guys. I mean, I first heard about Oomnitza in an article that asked the question, in a world of connected things, organisations need thing management and a new kind of internet. So can you just set the scene a little and tell the listeners more about exactly what thing management is and also the role that Oomnitza is going to play in that?
It's a great question. Thing management for us, the way we look at it is all the things that make your business run. So this includes things like your infrastructure, which can be the endpoints that you see in your office. They can be things like the switches, the routers, the things that are behind the scenes from the infrastructure perspective. They can be the endpoints, the machines that the employees are actually working on, the machines that you see in the conference rooms, all the connected devices that are running inside of our company that make our businesses run. And that also includes the software that is running on those devices. So the hardware and the software that's running on those devices all managed in one place. And what that gives you, it gives you value of those devices, improved value of those devices, improved security of those devices, which is a major topic today, and the availability of those devices, which is important for continuing to keep the business running. You see a lot of companies investing heavily into these genius bars. You walk into any kind of top-notch company nowadays, especially here in San Francisco where I'm sitting, there's so many to name, and they really care about their customers, which is their employees, right? Their IT teams care about the customer, which is the internal employee, and the availability of devices can be a really big thing. if you're starting a new job and you're getting onboarded and your devices aren't ready to go or they're not secure, that can really hinder your experience. And also if you're an executive trying to give a presentation or fly somewhere and you need an extra device, all those things have to be managed and calculated. And that's what we help companies do.
Now, I'm always fascinated by the story behind any company and what put you on this path. So can you tell me more about your background in enterprise software, which I think you spent some time with SAP, and also what made you channel your passion for complex business processes and technology to then go on and co-found Oomnitza?
Yeah, SAP is a great company. It really is. They've been around for so long, really a juggernaut in the space, incredibly efficiently run company in many ways. But when you spend so much time, I spent almost 5+ years at SAP, you start realizing, hey, this is really an interesting way of solving a problem, but maybe there's another way, or maybe there's a SaaS way, software as a service at the time. And so I think everything that we gathered from our past experiences, mine specifically at SAP, really has helped us build a software company and a software product that maybe is an evolution of what we've had before. Enterprise software has been very functional and maybe dry for a really long time until up to fairly recently, where now we're talking about the consumerization of IT and the consumerization of these products. And, if you don't know where you're from, maybe it's hard to know where you're going type of thing. But SAP really helped us shape the way for what does the future of software look like? What's the opportunities out there? And obviously SAP is a huge juggernaut, and we're just a tiny slice of what enterprise software means. But we have the opportunity to be the best at that one thing. And I think that's a huge privilege, which some of these bigger companies just don't have anymore.
And just to put the scale of what you do into perspective, here in 2018, Oomnitza has reached over $1 billion in assets managed. And you also help CIOs prepare for the enterprise of things too. I mean, that's a staggering figure, but can you share with me the kind of problems that you're solving and any similarities or challenges that any CIOs out there that are facing that will probably resonate with CIOs listening to this podcast as well?
Yeah, well, what I think every CIO will tell you is that the landscape of devices and software is changing. The amount of devices that are coming online and the frequency at which they're changing is getting faster and faster. Everything in the world is becoming a computer. If you look around, your car is becoming a computer, your house is becoming a computer, the infrastructure that makes our countries run is becoming basically computerized. And with everything becoming computers, so our companies are becoming more computerized. And that adds a lot of complexity and obviously security vulnerabilities, because every one of these devices that's connected to the internet is a window into your data. It's a window into your world. And if you don't know where your devices are or what they're doing, it's very difficult to lock them. Right? You can't lock the doors to the house you don't know exist. And so I think every CIO today is facing these challenges of asking, where are our devices? What are they doing? Are they secure? Are they ready? And then on the flip side of that, there's always a question about software. Are we utilizing it correctly? Are we spending too much? Are we getting trued up by vendors? And how can we manage that better? So I think that's a major problem for a lot of people in the IT sphere today. One additional thing that I think is interesting is there's a lot of international data safety laws that are coming up now, and it's adding another layer of complexity. We were just talking with a customer who does a lot of business overseas, and when they go into countries where the data privacy may be of concern for that company, they don't bring their normal hardware and software with them. They have to bring loaned out devices. And it creates an interesting perspective where if you can't bring your own laptop, well, then whose laptop are you bringing, and how do you manage that kind of logistics, for instance, is one of the aspects of thing management.
And Oomnitza has also recently announced the Oomnitza Bot. I mean, can you tell me more about that? I mean, because what looks incredibly exciting about it is, yes, it's an IT asset management chatbot, but it also works with Slack and integrates with Zendesk too, which is incredibly exciting and a different way of approaching this, isn't it?
It definitely is. And this was a brainchild by our CTO, Trent Seed, when he's obviously a genius. If people don't know yet, let me be the first one to tell you. He's done some fantastic work previous to Oomnitza and with Oomnitza. And what he's done with the chatbot, what him and his team have done with the chatbot is really give users of a company the ability to, through natural language processing, be able to ask the bot a question like, where are my assets? What are my assets doing? Report a ticket and say, hey, my asset's having a problem. So for instance, my phone is not turning on anymore, or hey, I can't log into my Salesforce account, or why isn't my machine booting up, or it's running slow, or whatever it may be. And it's all through natural language processing. So where previously you maybe had to file a ticket, here you can just go, hey, my asset's not working. And the bot will ask you, well, which asset? Here's a list of 3 that I know are in the system for you that you're using today. And so that kind of natural language eases, one, the interaction, but saves tons of time and puts the user into a really position of power to understand what's going on with their devices. Because a lot of times for us employees, it can be kind of a dark box. I give you my laptop, you give me a new one, and that's it. And maybe a little bit more understanding there is great. And then on the other side, it's also a really great tool for IT teams, admins, and even finance to be able to pull reports via natural language processing. So they can ask a question and say, well, what are all the devices that aren't encrypted in our New York office? And then it'll give you a list of all the devices that aren't encrypted simply by just asking the bot this. And I think that's the evolution that we really want to see when we talk about consumerization of IT. And so it's great to see Trent and his team really pushing the forefront of that, of what's possible when it comes to the new age of interaction, I would say.
So do you have any use cases just to help listeners visualize how Oomnitza software tracks the life cycle of all these devices and objects that we've talked about, from the time that they're budgeted pre-purchase all the way through archiving the data generated by obsolete assets earmarked for destruction? Because it's quite a journey, isn't it?
It absolutely is. And maybe the best use case would be to just run through the life cycle of one of these devices.
Yeah.
The first thing that happens for those who aren't familiar is that you budget the device, right? You say we're going to buy a new device, and this is a brand new device that we don't own yet. And it starts off in the procurement system, right? You have a procurement system that purchases the device, and it creates a purchase order number. And then this device gets shipped from the manufacturer, and the manufacturer has tons of data, one of them being the serial number, but they know the make, the model, what hardware is in it. They have tons of data, obviously, because they built the device. And then they ship it. The next step is for it to be received. And often there's lots of different locations, lots of different places, different devices. Some of them have barcodes. Sometimes people will use NFC. Some customers use RFID tags to receive the information. And with that, you'll get tons of great data like the location, the date, the time. Only then do people start really imaging the device, right? And imaging the device means putting a agent on the device that allows us to install and uninstall software virtually or remotely, as well as have antivirus and all the other things that are necessary to have a heartbeat of the device. And there's many different OSs out there. So companies will have many different agents living on many different devices in order to continue letting them be imaged. And the challenge with that is that you got many systems, many processes, and many companies only start managing the device at that point. But really, there's all these steps we talked about before and after. For instance, the step right afterwards is managing the device, right? And what that means is the device is going to break. It's going to have problems. It's going to have processes. It's going to need to be loaned out, loaned in, uninstalled, et cetera. Just the everyday stuff that happens. And there's thousands of devices every day. And a lot of companies will use their ticketing system to manage this process. But ticketing systems are really good for problems and issue tracking. They're not very good for process tracking. And a lot of companies will try to manage this entire process in a ticketing system, and then they're surprised when it doesn't work. And the reason it doesn't work is you really need a standalone system that manages that life cycle. And so that's that example of purchase to management to, and then eventually end of life, right? It gets replaced or lost or stolen or broken, whatever. That happens for thousands of machines every single day in your company.
I'm curious, though. Are you noticing that growing companies are gaining a competitive edge over their more, let's say, established competitors who are famed for keeping their data siloed and within IT and behind text and form-heavy UIs? Because it seems, I think all companies now, that the smaller to medium-sized businesses can make great grounds on those bigger companies because they can move faster and are more agile and more open. Is that what you're finding?
Absolutely. We think that IT is a huge competitive advantage. Yeah. The companies that have great IT teams operate faster, they have better tools, and they're definitely getting an edge up on their competition. The main reason for that is today great IT teams can leverage different systems and the APIs of that system, right? We live in a world now where the APIs and the connections between systems have greatly increased and been a lot easier for us to connect to. There's a lot less silos. So today you can really get the best solution for the job. I mean, you wouldn't use a hammer on a screw, right? From far away, you could say, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I could just hammer in the screw. But it's not the best tool for the job. The best tool for the job is going to be obviously a screwdriver. And in the IT realm, there's certain situations like that too. You could use, for instance, a ticketing system to manage the process, or you could buy the best tool in the business. And if you do that, then you have the best tools across multiple businesses interacting with each other, talking with each other, and you get the best of both worlds with an easy implementation. It's a fairly new concept, really, but it's definitely the future, and I think a lot of companies are benefiting from it.
Now, before we recorded today's episode, I did do a little research on you, and I read a fantastic article that I think you wrote earlier this year where you said people are not things and IOP is not IoT. Can you expand on that and the message that you delivered in that article for people that haven't read it?
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for reading it, Neil. I'm glad somebody is. That's it's the concept is quite simple. If you look at the existing software out there, it's for managing people. And I'll give you an example. CRM. It's for managing the contacts of our customers. The HCM, which is human capital management, the management of our employees, that is also the center of that is the people. And then service management, it's about people fixing things, right? A ticket for a person to go do something. And a lot of our software has been based around people. Well, we live in a world now where there's more things than people. As of 2012, right? There's more billions of connected devices than there is people. And that's a fairly recent thing. We need software that puts the thing in the middle. So the Internet of People already existed. The CRMs of the world, the HCMs of the world, the service management tools of the world, those already exist. But with all these influxes of devices, who's going to manage the things? And if you take the approach of IOP, the Internet of People, and try to apply that to the Internet of Things, you can have a really bad time because these things are smarter, they're faster, they're easier to communicate, and they know a lot more about themselves than most people know about those things. So it's important to let the thing be the center of the workflow and let the thing manage itself.
Fantastic. So as we head towards the end of 2018, there's only about a week left now. Mm-hmm. Looking forward to 2019. I mean, what's next for Oomnitza? Is there anything else you can share with us today?
Yeah, we say this a lot. What we want is for every company to be able to answer the questions, where are my things and what are they doing? And if we've done that, then we're successful. I know it's not a lot of time left in the end of the year, but hopefully some of that will trickle into next year as well.
So before I let you go, can I just ask that you remind the listeners of where they can find you guys online and also maybe even contact a member of your team if they have any questions or just want to carry that conversation on that we started today?
Absolutely. So you can find out more information about us by going to www.oomnitza.com. We're on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter at Oomnitza. And team, that's TEAM, at oomnitza.com. as a great way to get in touch with us.
Well, I'll add those links to the show notes on the blog post that accompanies this. But more than anything, just a big thank you for coming on today. There are so many big takeaways around the consumerisation of IT and these influx of devices and how businesses are expected to manage them. So I applaud you for what you're doing and a big thank you for coming on today.
Thanks for having me, Neil. It's been a pleasure.
I loved exploring the topic of thing management. And like we say now, and thing management is actually accurately and timely tracking every detail about laptops, desktops, monitors, smartphones, tablets, data center gear like servers and switches, sensors, and even there we're only just scratching the surface, to so much equipment that is central to business productivity and profitability. So for those reasons alone, there are so many valuable takeaways from today's episode. And I cannot thank Arthur enough for coming on today and opening up my eyes on some of the complex problems that they're aiming to solve but also simplify through technology with Oomnitza. So a big thank you to Arthur for coming on and sharing that story. As for me, it's time for me to gently take my foot off the gas and think about having a few days off and maybe drink too much, eat too much and watch some bad TV. Some say that I do that on a daily basis, but don't listen to them, I say. We've got a couple of more episodes lined up before I take a couple of days off. But as always, keep your messages coming in to techblogwriter@outlook.com, tweets @Neil C. Hughes. And if you need me for anything, or just want to share a good old-fashioned dad joke, you know where to find me. I'm the easiest guy in the world to find. But until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thanks for listening to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Until next time, remember, technology is best when it brings people together.